everyone. It's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome back to another vlogging on the go. And once again, I've decided to revisit yet another school from the past in my educational journey, where I'm referring to grades 1 through 12. Well, here I am at James Short Memorial Elementary School, as it's been over 30 years since I attended here. This is my early elementary school days, as I attended here starting in September 1988. Yes, after when we had the Winter Olympics, the 15th Winter Olympics that were right here in Calgary, and I attended here up until June 1991. So it's been almost 30 years to the day that I had my last day of school in this building, and I knew that I was going somewhere else. I already made the vlog about the Dr. Oakley School, which is where I went to after coming here to James Short Memorial. And I always said that school over there is always going to be a special place to me. Here I actually kind of have mixed emotions. I mean, this was my earlier elementary school days. I definitely do have some great memories and some great guests that came here when I was attending here. Of course, I already made a story about the lunchroom story, where I farted in the lunchroom. This was the school that I did that in the lunchroom, but this school is definitely a lot smaller when I was attending here. And once again, I think I could do this all in one shot, one take, because there were portables. There were portables here when I was going to school, but none of this was here. I know this playground behind the dumpster and the recycling bin, I know that playground was not here when I was going to school back in the late 1980s and early 1990s. And the one big playground is not here anymore. I'm in the community of Penbrooke Meadows, which is just south of Marlborough Park, my childhood neighborhood. And you can see all this was the same. I mean, the base of the school is still the same. As you look around here, I remember coming into school here as well. That was the front doors near the office where I came in. But right in this part of the school, I know this base was here. This one right here, yep. I remember that's where that lunchroom is, where I farted in the lunchroom, and it wasn't I got blamed for farting. I made sure I knew I had to fart. So that was that story. And then this window right here, I remember having grades 1 to 3 in that classroom, and they were split classroom, because I already mentioned in my Dr. Oakley video that I was diagnosed with a learning disability. So I was in special ed in this school as well. As I said, I grew up in Marlborough Park, which is just north of here. But this was a special school that I went to with the special program. Well, I didn't go to Captain Smart, but this is where it's all different, because where I'm standing right now, I remember there was like a little kind of alcove, and then there were portables here, and I definitely didn't like portables as much. It's a cheap way to expand more school capacity, because this playground right here is whereabouts where those portables were when I was going to school, because I had my grade 2 class in that portable. And I just remember those portables, like the air was stale. It was either too hot or too cold. I didn't like those portables as much. But this whole playground here was new. And the other thing that's changed is over here in the distance. That's GW Skiing School, which I understand that school is grades 1 through 6. And this dry pond was not here, which is where it collects stormwater if we have a big downpour. But I remember in that dry pond that you see out here, that was where the bigger playground was. I mean, you can see you got this playground here. This is whereabouts I was standing for my grade 2 class, and then this playground here. But all this, I mean, the housing around here actually is relatively the same. And then out right by GW Skiing that you see, there is the community center and the Boys and Girls Club. But I remember a bigger playground right in this dry pond area. What I remember about that playground is that the size of it, it had tires. It had big tires. So I remember that from over 30 years ago. But all back here was all the portables, and I remember some classes in here. But keep working my way around. This is a Penbrooke Drive where the school is. It's near 5th Avenue Southeast. I'm just south of Memorial Drive, and actually if you follow along this Penbrooke Drive, eventually turns into 8th Avenue, and there is a place that I'll share later in this video that you might remember if you're a long-time Calgarian that I went to a few times because of going to school here, that maybe some people are nostalgic for, and shows a dying culture. But going back to the school here, I mean, I just remember portables being here. I think I remember I think the library was around here. And then now the wind's picking up, but I know this school right now. I remember when I was attending, it was only grades 1 to 3. I looked it up right now. Hopefully the wind's not getting too much in the way. That it's K to 2, grades K to 2, and had special needs. I remember after grade 3, even though I think my fate was already determined, I remember being asked, where do you want to go to school next? And I remember I did say, can't be smart, but I wasn't fully aware about the fact that my special needs, learning disability. And then that's when I remember that I was going to a new school for the 1991-1992 calendar year, which I've already shared that that's Dr. Oakley. And I'm going to say that school will always be a special place to me on how it's about, because here I just felt, I mean, I was in my earlier elementary days, and I still had I know I had the same teacher in grades 1 and 2, and then grade 3 I definitely had most of my memories, I think, because I also remember more, but there was a couple special guests I remember. I mean, the other things I remember before I touched on the stories for grade 3 is that in 1989, being a Calgary sports fan, I was going to school here when the Calgary Flames won the Stanley Cup. It was, the end of May. The exact date was May 25th, 1989. I was in my late grade 1 here, and what I remember from that is I remember we did like a daily journal, and I remember the night that we ultimately won the Stanley Cup. That I remember playing the daily journal. I think I put something down. I hope the Calgary Flames win tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. So I was aware of it, but then I remember the next day we put in our daily journal where all of the class saying the Calgary Flames won the Stanley Cup. And I know that my parents also like to share the story that keep in mind I was turning 7 at the time, and the fact that this is on a school night and you had to go to bed early, and I just didn't fully appreciate what happened. Same with the 1988 Winter Olympics back then, and but I definitely remember some memories of it. But I know that if the Calgary Flames ever have a chance to win the Stanley Cup again, I'm definitely going to appreciate it a lot more and understand why grown-ups cry when they win the championship. But I remember that, and I know that was my grade 1 that I kind of remember. And then grade 2, I know that I definitely missed a lot of time in grade 2 because I had some time where I was sick, especially towards late in grade 2 where I got the chicken pox. I understand there's a vaccine for it. That's all I remember. Grade 2, I had the same teacher. Grade 2, I was in that portable. But and also I remember in grade 2, I was bused to school. So I was bused to school right here from Marble Park. I mean, it's not too far, but you're a little kid and you're not going to know where you're going. But I remember in grade 2, one thing that stands out to me is that on the bus, on the way to school, on the run, there was one student that lived on the same cul-de-sac that my grandmother did in Marlborough. Not to confuse the Marble Park. As I walk around, this is new as well, this kind of amphitheater thing. That wasn't here, but getting back to the being bused to school in grade 2, I remember there was a student. She was in my class. And the other thing I also remember that she happened to be on that kids show called Kid Street. Remember Kid Street? That was on, now it's global, but it used to be 2 at 7. And it was filmed in Calgary. Well, I know she was on that show, but she lived on the same block as my grandmother. So I made sure that I told my grandmother when my bus comes by so I could wave to her. So I remember that. And then if there was times that I knew I wasn't going to school, I made sure I called my grandmother at that time to say don't wait for me. So I remember that from grade 2. But I also remember that I was sick at some parts a lot more. But going to grade 3, this is where I get to the big special guests I remember. I was in a split classroom again with a different teacher. I was with grade 3s in special ed. But it definitely also touched my inner sports fan a lot more. That maybe triggered it. Because in grade 3, I had 3 special guests. I remember one I don't remember the name of, but I don't remember how we got these special guests to come in and talk to us in the classroom. But I remember one special guest that I don't remember the name, but I remember it was an NHL referee at the time, or a linesman. I don't remember if it was a referee or a linesman. He came in to talk to us, talking about, his job, what he does, NHL. But he was living in Calgary at the time, so I remember an NHL referee came here, talked to us in the classroom. So that was the first special guest I remember when I was here in grade 3. The second special guest that came here, remember Kent Warnock of the Calgary Stampeders, or number 93. He came to us, this is all going into 1990, 1991, my grade 3. So Kent Warnock came here, so I definitely got exposed to the CFL. This was kind of at the period where the Calgary Stampeders were getting out of their lulls. Their worst of the worst in the mid to late 1980s. Because I looked up Kent Warnock. He actually is from, I believe, St. John, New Brunswick. But he actually played football here in Calgary at the University of Dinos. Was on the 1992 Grey Cup championship team. When we finally got Doug Flutie. That's when Calgary was starting to rebuild again, before we got Doug Flutie. So I remember Kent Warnock here. Ultimately, he also was on the BC Lions 1994 team, but he was the first overall pick in 1986. But the one biggest special guest that came here, but it wasn't to talk to us in the classroom, is my favorite Calgary Flame growing up, Joe Otto. Yes, Joe Otto even came here. I definitely remember Joe Otto coming here. I remember that was definitely a big day. I mean, it was hard to focus being a little boy, knowing that your favorite hockey player is coming here, Joe Otto. He was on the Calgary Flames started in 1984 as an undrafted free agent, and let's just say he was Mark Messier's shadow. He did score that big goal. Regardless, Canuck fans saying if he kicked it in, Game 7 against Vancouver in 1989, where he eventually won the Stanley Cup. But Joe Otto was here in 1991. I also remember in that split classroom that I had here in grade 3 that was her favorite Calgary Flame as well. So and I remember it was a Milk for Kids. Found like a Milk for Kids thing. I remember we were collecting when we had milk cartons, we collected decals or whatever, and it was something like that. And that Joe Otto came here, and he was in the gymnasium right where we're looking at right here. So I mean, those are the big special guests. So I'm going to say my ultimate memories here is that I was here when the Calgary Flames won the Stanley Cup. I have brief memories of that. I mean, I was too young to fully appreciate it, and now it's been 32 years at least since the Calgary Flames have won the Stanley Cup, and I can sympathize with Leaf fans a bit because we're getting to that territory of how long it's been since the Calgary Flames won the Stanley Cup. But since when the Calgary Flames won the Stanley Cup in 1989, we've only gone down the first round twice in 32 years. I had to wait till 2004 for that, and that was in dramatic fashion. And then 2015, both times against the Vancouver Canucks, and 1989, that series shouldn't have gone to Game 7. Looking back, when we barely beat the Vancouver Canucks and eventually wanted to win the Stanley Cup. Yes, my childhood favorite Flame who eventually came here, Joe Otto, who scored that big goal. But if you look at the highlights of that overtime, how the heck did Joe Mullen not score? That was before, the Stan Smeel breakaway and Mike Vernon save, and then it was Jim Paplinski that shot the puck, and Joe Otto was in front of the net by Kirk McLean. I think he was also pushed in by a Vancouver defender and scored that goal in the final minute of the first overtime. But I'm going to say the special guest, the farting in the lunchroom, and then I guess in grade 2, just the bus ride here while waving to my grandmother. But that's all I have for memories of James Short Memorial. Keep in mind that I'm going over 30 years since I started coming here, and it was 30 years ago that I had my last day here, and then I knew that I was going to a different school. I remember going to an information session at it was a Kensington school that's no longer around. I believe it's around 5th Avenue. I know I work and live near there. That where the school used to be. But I remember I was going to Dr. Oakley, and that summer I kept wondering where the heck is this school is. And I know that my dad was a courier, and one day during the summer he took me along because he was going to go by there, and I was like, oh, that's where that school is. Like, well, that's quite a ways. But just how my educational journey played out, I have some memories here. I just remember that I had some so-so time enjoying school, but those guests definitely kind of made up for it. And then ultimately, Dr. Oakley, that's always going to be a special place to me. But I have a little bit of James Short Memorial with me right well as well. And then I got a couple more things I want to share while I'm in Penbrooke Meadows. But this James Short is the same James Short that you might hear of if you're in downtown Calgary where the parkade is. That was the original school, and it's named after the same guy, James, who happens to be short, not because of height. I don't know how tall he was, but that parkade is named after. He was a politician, and he also worked at the school board. But this school was built in 1973 to replace the original one. So eventually I'm going to go back downtown, walk around. I'll do that in a separate vlog, sharing James Short. But it's the same James Short that here, so I do have some Calgary history when I attended here, but this was just because it was closest to my where I grew up. And I know eventually I'm going to have to vlog at those other schools, and also the fact that my childhood neighborhood. But as I said, I was in special ed classes here as well, and I'm just going to say the guests, the farting in the lunchroom, and then maybe some other small memories. I was here when we won the Stanley Cup, and I briefly remember that, and yeah, that's all I have for this school. So I'll just take some pictures, and then I got a couple more relics that I'll share while I'm in Penbrooke, as I mentioned. So I'll see you there before I close out this video. Well, that was my best what if pose selfie, you know, when you're trying to take a picture of yourself. And I generally find for some reason when you're trying to look at yourself in the camera, it's harder to smile. But anyway, as I've been reflecting on my schools and my blogging on the go, well, I walked a little way down. I'm near 8th Avenue and 52nd Street Southeast. Well, this is alternate universe time that I recently reflected on James Short, and I just felt my time and memories there were so-so. I mean, the special guests definitely made my memories, but some would think that my educational journey, I could have went here for high school, and that's the what if. I'm just looking back that, you know, at Dr. Oakley, after when I went from James Short to Dr. Oakley, and definitely looking back, it was a very special place to me on my development during my elementary school days, and I did well enough that eventually went through into the regular stream. But it's still crazy to think that geographically, where I grew up in Marble Park, which is my childhood neighborhood, I was closest to Lester B. Pearson High School near Village Square, and then this school right here. And I know that I have some friends that I'm connected to that. This was their high school. So this is for you as well, that acknowledging that, that some of my friends went here as well, and that's still the alternate universe. And then not too far from here, which there's one more place that I'm going to share before I close out the James Short School part of my vlog. I'll do the James Short Park that was also closest to Forest Lawn. So I was closest to Lester B. Pearson, Jack James, which my journey could have went here. And I'm just looking back and thinking, what if? How would my school journey been? It's just alternate universe hypothetical. I mean, looking back, I'm glad how ultimately my educational journey played out through K to 12. I mean, it wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, and had to work hard at it. But I mean, with family involvement in the background, I'm definitely more thankful as time goes on. And this, you know, going back to the sports fan cliche where, you know, they don't look back on their accomplishments till their career's over, and just how doing this vlogging on the go, that I mean, ultimately I'm glad that I went to Crescent Heights High School because many members of my family went there, and I know that this is more of a special high school for those with special education. And I mean, yes, I have a learning disability, but I did well enough, and I mean, it's just how things played out. I mean, if you know me, I said the first time I moved was when I moved to my first home place in Pine Ridge in 2009, and I've always lived in the neighborhood. So there's friends that connected to that I didn't know until I went to Cappy Smart in grade 6. But I've always lived in the neighborhood, but it just never went to school, and just, you know, just how things worked out. But this is the biggest what if. I mean, it's not as big as Crescent Heights. I mean, it's a newer school. I mean, I'm in the newer part of the city, kind of in that Penbrooke Meadows, Forest Heights area, just south of Marlborough Park, which I said my heart is always here in the Northeast, but my life isn't anymore. But I'm just looking back that it's the biggest what if my school education changed it differently. I think Jack James, I think they're the Falcons, or no, not Falcons, the Cougars. Could have been a Cougar instead of a Cowboy. And then, you know, this is a newer school, but I just had to stop here, and this is my biggest what if, alternate universe, being hypothetical. But and also going back to, you know, sports trades, it's alternate universe. If I went back, another Back to the Future reference, if I went back to myself 30 years ago, and if things played out differently, how would I look back on if it was 20 years ago that I went here instead of Crescent Heights? I'll never know, but just how things played out, I'm glad it is. But there's one more thing that I'll share that I got exposed to because I went to James Short, and it represents a culture that is gone, that many Calgarians have nostalgia for. I might be touching on it because I'm on 8th Avenue Southeast, 52nd Street, but I'll see you right there to wrap up the James Short part of my video. I guess another James, Jack James, James Short. I guess this is the James video, I'll call it, but I'll see you there, and you'll probably know what it is. Here's just a clue that I'll just pan out, but I'll meet right there. Well, I'm standing at 4725 8th Avenue Southeast, right here in Calgary, in Forest Heights. Do you remember what used to be right here? Remember the Rollerland? Not mean to do my Remember the Calgary series voice, but I remember Rollerland being on this patch of land right now. Now it's being converted and reused for a seniors long-term housing unit that's going to be opening in 2022. What I think when I was walking around here, that it would probably be interesting to think that the residents that might eventually live here, maybe they'll remember roller skating at the Rollerland right here. I mean, it's right next door to the Calgary Public Library, and I just looked at Jack James over there, you know, case of alternate universe, and don't know the exact name of the school right here. And then right behind there is the Forest Lawn High School, but I know that I remember coming here to Rollerland to do some roller skating while I was attending James Short Memorial just on some school trips or field trips. I mean, I was going back to the late 1980s and early 1990s that I represent that culture towards the tail end. That I know that the other big roller skating rink that many Calgarians are nostalgia for is Lloyd's roller skating. I think that closed down a few years ago. Rollerland here, I believe, closed down, I think, around 2002. I do remember the building being here. It eventually became abandoned up until I looked back on some stories that I think it was 2015 that eventually this patch of land right here was going to be the, well, you can see right here, the Clifton House long-term care facility there, the Clifton Manor. And I also have some interesting stories with Clifton Manor that when I was a little kid that I remember hated going there because my grandfather on my mom's side, his mother was there, and apparently I hated going there, and that's where also my grandmother on my dad's side also eventually went. So there is some family connections here, because I said I grew up in the Northeast. But getting back to right here, that Rollerland used to be right here, and that's another area that I think many Calgarians would be nostalgia for. And with all these schools in this area, it was probably a jamming place back then. I think I remember one of the reasons they shut it down was because it was bringing in too many late night parties and raves. But it just represents a culture from the past that is long gone. That I just think it's probably not too unreasonable to suggest that eventually the seniors that will live here, they might remember saying, I used to remember rollerblading here at Rollerland. And I'm sure there's going to be some couples in there that's going to think that they met there. And I know that that was a culture just before my time. I was in the tail end of it, and it just represented that. I would say too young to appreciate. I just remember going to Rollerland here, but that's just my looking back on James Sharp Memorial, my time that I was at James Sharp Memorial. That I still say that from my earlier elementary school days, I do have social memories, but I do have some great memories too with special guests and some classes I had. Of course, my childhood favorite Flame, Joel freaking Otto, coming to my elementary school. That was freaking awesome. But ultimately, it's part of my journey. I still have a little part of it that I still have with James Sharp, but ultimately, I'm glad that how my education journey played out, going to Dr. Oakley, which I've already made the vlog there, and I say that place will always be a special place, because walking by here to eventually the former site of Rollerland, Jack James behind me, alternate universe time, I could have went there, but I'm just glad how things played out. And this will be it for this vlog, for looking back on another school for the past. So as I always like to say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home the Flames, Hitmen, the Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel. And a former Calgary Flame and a Calgary Stampeder. Went to James Short when I was going there, but I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and also share my experience I'm on the road, our sport event, and just vlogging on the go. It's definitely been fun for me to do this vlogging on the go, just rediscover the city I live, work in, and just going back to the schools that I had a very, very interesting educational journey with the learning disability, not because I was a troubled kid or anything, just I had a learning disability. So I always lived in the same neighborhood, but I went to a bunch of different schools for that reason. But I feel like I have an interesting story to share and tell, and give my perspective on the city that was when I was growing up. Rollerland used to be right here. So so if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like and subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below. So yeah, what do you think of my James Short Memorial journey? I mean, ranging from, it was so-so, but special guests. I was there when the Flames won the Stanley Cup. I already shared my story about the time I farted in the lunchroom. I still remember that, and it's still funny. I guess every kid, especially boy, always has to have a hilarious farting story. But you'd be freaking out if your favorite sports athlete comes to the school that you're going to. But I also remember Rollerland. It represents a culture from the past, and who knows, maybe you'll see some of that on clothing in the future. But if I could find any pictures online that I'll share in the video what Roland used to be here, but yeah, just it's an interesting that a seniors housing unit is going to be right here. So I just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. There's another James Short video that I'm going to do, but this time we're going to talk about the park and the history there. It's the same James Short of the elementary school I went to that represent, and there's some interesting history that maybe the name will be changed, so you can see in that video. So thanks for watching.